Well, hello everyone. Jeremy is a full-time angel investor across North America and Europe. He invests in very early stage companies, and he's also a dear friend of mine. I'm from Spain originally, but I've been in the Bay Area for 10 years now. And we started a program together. It's called Kaufman Fellowship Program, and it's an amazing program. It lasts 2 years for venture capitalists all around the world. And I was lucky enough to have him on my class. So welcome, Jeremy. It's a pleasure to have you here. Jeremy splits his time between San Francisco, Singapore, where he's from originally, and London. He keeps a very low profile on social media, and that's why I love this idea of having him here, sharing his story. Not only the professional perspective, but also his personal thing, right? His life and how he handles all these investments and these last 10 years. So I will start welcoming you, Jeremy, and also asking you to share some of your, basically, how did you get into angel investment? Like, why was that? How was that? What was the motivation coming from?
Yeah, it's a really good question. When I started, I actually didn't have any sort of background in technology. I didn't have any background in startups, entrepreneurship. I was actually a trader, a derivative trader for 8 years in London, in a world that I decided I didn't want to be part of anymore. And left. And so I started sort of trying to figure out what did I want to do with my life. Kind of had this, because I have a background in math, kind of had this fanciful notion that I could do something in machine learning, very, very different from probability theory. And actually ended up meeting a lot of startups. One of those startups was very clever, and she said, hey, you actually have a lot of money. Why don't you invest in my company? And I thought that was a good idea. So after I made that first angel investment, I thought, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to sort of, treat this like a learning opportunity. I really don't know much about this world. I could maybe invest in 20 companies over the next year, and then in that sort of year or two, treat it like an MBA. I'm almost definitely going to lose money, right? That was sort of the philosophy that I had. Angel investing is very hard. Startup investing is very hard. I don't have any network. I don't have any domain expertise. I'm a finance guy. I might as well be the dentist. Who do you want to take money from, right? So I said, okay, let me just take this from this learning opportunity, lose money, but hopefully it'll cost me less than an MBA. And then, that's how I started. And then after 2 years, did a little bit better than I thought I would be doing, primarily from a network and brand perspective. And at that point, I decided this is something that I actually love doing more than anything else I had done before in my life. And if that's the case, then I should try and see if I can make a living out of it. So after 2 years, I went all in. I decided I'm going to go all in. I'm going to put all the capital I have, or at least as much as I can, into startup investing and see if I can really make it work. And yeah, somehow it worked. It's been 10 years now. I've invested in about 120 companies. The companies are in over 20 different countries, mostly North America and Europe. And I've actually made money. It's crazy.
Which is kind of important, right? Not only you love it, but you have to make money as well. Could you tell us more about your process? Like, how do you source deals? How do you do the due diligence? Do you have anyone on your team now? How do you identify talent? How do you follow up with 120 investment, you say, right? Are you on the board for these companies? How do you handle all of that?
Yeah, really good questions. For me, because I had all this time, I didn't have a job, I was kind of unemployed, I decided that I would focus primarily on getting to know people and getting to know the industry. So I actually I decided, also, a lot of people in finance, they leave and they're saying, okay, I quit finance and now I'm going to travel the world for 6 months or for a year. And and then they go back to finance. So I kind of knew I wasn't going to go back to being a trader again. But I thought, well, if I don't have an opportunity to travel the world, oh, wow, look, there's this conference in Spain. There's this conference in Helsinki. I've never been to Helsinki. I've never been to Madrid, and I decided this is actually a fun way for me to, why don't I just go to all these different conferences and learn about the space, learn about startups, and that way I would meet a lot of people. So I kind of went a little crazy, started to go to, like, I went to an event almost every week. And that was sort of how it all began. Then I would meet other investors, I would meet startups at these events, and then I would invest in them, and slowly, that sort of slowly built stuff up. And that's also one of the reasons why I have investments in so many different countries. And then also as part of that process, I loved, I'm from Singapore. Singapore, historically hasn't been well known for entrepreneurship. We're an amazing startup country, but not necessarily, like having a lot of like creativity and entrepreneurship emphasized at school as opposed to sort of grades. And so I was also interested, what's happening in all the different ecosystems, right? And so I said, okay, why is London a cool ecosystem? Why is Spain a cool ecosystem? And I basically went and traveled everywhere and started to do investments everywhere. And at the time, I was the only one doing that. Most investors don't like to leave their home. In San Francisco, Silicon Valley, the joke is most investors will not invest any further than they can drive their Tesla. And so it was kind of a unique situation before COVID, and I think that sort of helped me a lot. In terms of like how do I have so many investments and manage it, because I sort of had this philosophy of like, okay, I want to meet people, I want to invest in people, and that's sort of the thing that's sort of come out of all of this. And so the way I think about it is, I am not the guy who is going to have any sort of expertise on a company, on the specifics around a company. So, if someone is doing something in agriculture tech, I don't know anything about farms, I don't know anything about the growing process, I don't have any advice to give on that. So I might as well just say, okay, I'm the dumb money, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I can help you with things that are common, right? Like things that the human elements. I have 120 founders now, 120 companies, more than 250 founders. I've spent time with most of them, and so I can tell you about common things that are around all of those things. And if that's the relationships, I don't need to be on a board. We don't need to talk every month. We get on WhatsApp. You have a problem, you WhatsApp me. We get on a call. And the way I like to think about it is like we're friends. Like I'm your friend, we're friends, and it's possible to have over 100 friends, right? Like it's not a crazy thing to think about, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I manage it.
Well, I can tell. I mean, you're on your phone 24/7 all day long. It's just, I think if they need you, you're there always. Yeah. It doesn't matter what time is it. It doesn't matter where he is. It's insane. I don't know if everyone could have that kind of life, Plus, you're living on a plane. I mean, it's insane. But anyway, you like it and you're good at it, so that's good. Where are the areas on angel investment that you could see, you could consider as an opportunity, as an area to improve, in your opinion?
Like for myself or for in general?
In general, but if you want to answer for yourself too.
Yeah, I think, in general, I think there's been a trend in the last 5 years where it seems like everybody's an angel now. It's like it's a very easy thing to put onto your resume, and the reason for that is all great signs. Is entrepreneurs are getting money a little bit earlier. It's very common to sort of, they call it take money off the table, and not just for the founders. Typically, if it's a $50 million round on a company, even the CTO gets something, VP of sales gets something, and so on that side, there's more people who have more money, and they're saying like, oh, maybe I should get involved in this angel investing thing. I have some expertise, I can help, I can also put some money in instead of just giving people free advice. There's also a lot of scouting programs from the funds have. There's also a lot of like systems of raising money like with AngelList, and so there's been an explosion of angels. And I think that's great. I think more expertise into the market, more angels out there is very good. The flip side of it though is I think one has to sort of be a bit careful, because angels are great. I think angels are the best investors, right? Because they don't have to be like a fund. A fund is always going to work for their LPs, for their investors. A fund always has to think in the best interest of a company, right? And if they think that the CEO is not the best person for the company, they can push the founders out. And this is very common. This is actually a common thing that happens with successful companies as well as bad companies. But then the good thing about the VC is, they have to care about the company. That's their job, right? Angels, they don't have to care about the company. They can care about the founder. They can do whatever they want. So they can be the best investor, but they can also be the worst investor, right? If the angel decides, you have an angel, super rich dude, has a huge company, huge legal team. One day he decides, oh, this founder disrespected me, and now he's going to spend the next, few days like telling his legal team, let's screw these guys, get on it. there's probably nothing that the guy can do, but it's a lot of overhead, right? It's a lot of stress, it's a lot of overhead, and that's also not an uncommon story. Or you know, you have an angel who first investment is a lot of money for them, and then they message you every day. It's like, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? Or you have 50 angels. Nowadays you have so many angels, and if the angels don't behave so well, you know, even little things like your competitor just raised $50 million. You don't need all 50 of your angels like, hey, your competitor just raised $50 million. What do you think? You're like, oh my God. Like, you know, so I think it's very important to, you know, when you're taking money from angels, it's also important that they're experienced, they know what they're doing. It's good to like everybody know, okay, hey guys, you have a role, you're there to support companies, you're not there to be a tax on companies, and I think, you know, so you should work on both sides.
And that was actually my next question, right? Like, I don't know if we have any entrepreneurs in the audience who are raising, yeah? Oh, wow, okay, awesome. So for those people,
yeah.
What is the advice you will give them? Like, what should they look? Because they might not be only looking for a check, right? They shouldn't.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not. But what would be the advice for them to do their own due diligence on angels?
Yeah, I mean, due diligence on angels, it can be tricky. It's you know, it's just the usual, right? Like a lot of it. To me, the most important due diligence, if you know, an angel investor wants to invest, is talk to their other portfolio companies, right? Talk to the portfolio companies that did badly. That's what I like. You know, this company failed. What did this person do? You know, and the other good thing about angels is 9 times out of 10, you know, they're not going to be very involved. You know, like they'll invest. They have a full-time job. They have 120 companies now. But like. And so it's kind of useful to figure out what their expectations are, and it's kind of useful like what can they bring to the table. You know, like the way I like to think about angels is, you know, you think about it like you're, you know, like these old school like heist movies, right? Like Ocean's 11, right? So you have like 11 angels. One guy is your demolition guy. One guy is like the ninja. One guy is like the con man. You know, and it's good to have sort of like that subset of people. And then the other good thing about angels, I would say, is, you know, if you're raising money, depending on how much you're raising from a fund is a process, right? It may not be an appropriate time, and if you do decide you need to raise money from funds, it's good to know that like you should do it as a process. You know, you should not talk to one fund, and then like a week, 2 weeks later, you talk to another fund, and then a month later, you talk to another fund. All these funds talk to each other, right? So it's very important that when you're out to actually raise a real seed round, like over $1 million, maybe $2 million, you make sure you try to get all of that process in one period of time. With angels, it's a little bit less of an issue. You know, like an angel can be, you can talk to one angel, they're not going to talk to a whole bunch of other angels. Angels are also more emotional. They tend to be like, oh, you know, yeah, my Bitcoin is doing super well. Yeah, cool, let's invest in this guy. You know, like, or whatever. Oh, crypto's going down. Oh, okay, bye guys. You know, like, and so I think that's it's an easier avenue to work from. The other good thing about angels is that they tend to have networks. You know, if they're angel operators, they will have other funds that they're connected to if you need to raise those rounds, or they have other angels that they're connected to. And so it's kind of like, you know, you can work piecemeal in that way. Just be careful, like before you get introduced to a big network of investors, it's good to try and line them all up into a process as well.
All right, I have 2 more questions, and I really want you guys to ask at least just one. And I only have 5 minutes, so she's looking at me like, not going to happen. Let's try. Can you share with them what is like the biggest challenge you faced, ups and downs, lessons learned?
Yeah, on my end as an angel, I mean, I guess the biggest challenge I faced was, yeah, you don't really get money back for a very long time. So, you know, I mean, I'm happy to openly say, you know, I've been investing for 10 years, and it's only last year that I finally am in the green, you know, like, which is a very hard thing to explain to my parents, like, oh, you what? You haven't made any money for 9 years, you know? I mean, so that's one side, and I think that's something that even though everyone knows, it's a hard thing to live through. And then I think the second challenge was really mainly about mindset. I think, you know, when I was coming in, you know, I was sort of very nervous about myself as sort of being the dumb money. You know, it's like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really the dumb money. I don't know how I can be helpful to startups. But you know, I realized that like it doesn't really matter which ecosystem you're in. You know, I was very scared to go to Silicon Valley, so I moved to the Bay Area 5 years ago, and I was very scared to go there. You know, like, oh my God, Bay Area. You know, there's all these crazy people who are amazing bloggers and like, you know, fantastic entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, you know, Silicon Valley may have the outliers, but the distribution is around the same. You know, and what that means is the bottom 50 or the bottom 30%, they're just as terrible and horrible people as anywhere else. So if you just behave well, if you like reply fast, don't waste entrepreneurs' time, don't make promises that you don't deliver, you are actually in the top 50% already. You're already above average. Doesn't matter where you are. And I think that's the same for entrepreneurs. If you're willing to work hard, you're willing to hustle, like do the right things. Doesn't matter if you're in the Bay Area or you're in Spain. Like you can be successful anywhere.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And last question would be, now that you are in that inflection point, if you will, after 10 years, what you envision for the next 10 years in your career, in your life?
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I've been thinking about that a lot because it's been 10 years. If I'm honest, yeah, it's sort of like, what do I want to invest in? I think it's a big question. So over the 10 years, I started out actually in ag tech, but then I decided, okay, this is really hard. Working with farmers is really hard. It's the only company I'm on the board of. It's tough. But I started out with sort of like an impact focus. But then it was too hard. I said, okay, I'm learning. I need to just do everything, And then I went into machine learning. Like 3 years ago, I went into a software dev space where, it's like a bunch of white dudes in Berlin making products for more dudes who are making products in engineering companies. And I just started to think to myself, do I need to do this? Like why? So like obviously following up from the last talk, I think in the last 2 years, I've sort of been thinking a little bit more about what are the companies that I'm actually doing? Who are they helping? What are they serving? And I think, that's sort of where I've been leaning. And you can also see that in the last 2 years. I think more of the companies I've invested in tend to have more of a sustainability focus, impact focus, or like at least a product focus that's good for people, as opposed to like an enterprise focus that's good for the guy working at the sales job. It's kind of,
All right, I just want to ask one question from the audience. Just one, if you guys have one question for Jeremy, please.
Hello.
Hi.
What's the success rate of the companies you invest on?
Success rate. Well, it's a good question. What do you mean by success rate? I guess right now, yeah. So if you take it like out of the 120 companies, I would say 6 are unicorns, or we had unicorn exit. Then I would say probably about 20 of them are over 100 million valuation or have over 100 million valuation exit. And then failure is interestingly quite low, which is not what I was looking for. Probably about 30% have failed, or they've gone on to do something else. When I invest, I actually expect it to be 70% chance of failure. But I think we've been in an environment for the last 14 years. It's, as we all know, it's crazy bull market.
Yeah.
We're going to have a very interesting time potentially for the next 10 years. And I think because of that bull market, entrepreneurs have had a lot more ability to sort of like hustle, raise more money, find ways, and also to some degree, that's sort of what I look for in companies or in founders. I'm looking for founders who are like, I'm always amazed. The ag tech guy, he's still doing it. He's like 2 guys. He barely makes any money. It's been 10 years. I'm like, why do you still want to do it? And he's like, no, I got to help these farmers. I really care about this, And it's like, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And I think because I've sort of over-indexed on people who really, really, really want to do what they're doing and they don't really want, they refuse to give up. I think that's also why it leans that way. But typically, I think my statistics are a bit, not normal that it's such a low failure rate.
All right, I think we need to cut down now. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Jeremy.
All right, thanks, guys.